Welcome to Biz Dev Live. My name is Cameron Toth. I am your host, and this is the 200th episode of Biz Dev Live. Cue the balloons. Hope you got the confetti going in your place. This is very exciting for me and marks a major milestone. And who better to share it with than Alyssa Zonghetti of Contemporary Connection. She is somebody that is going to share some amazing takeaways for you today. We're going to talk about the value of networking, the power of sharing your story and listening to your gut and taking the leap. I can say for myself in terms of BizDev Live and the evolution last year when I started this journey and building to 200 episodes here, it was definitely listening to my gut, understanding past wisdom and taking that leap and making the commitment and making it non-negotiable in my schedule. I hope that you are going to stay with us and make this a major part of your day. I'm so excited that you're here. I hope that you'll be with us in the comments, ask questions, because one of the things that's really amazing about doing a live show, and one of the reasons that I do a live show, is that we can actually respond in the moment. You can certainly comment later in viewing this if you're watching this after the live, and we can respond to you, but there's nothing better than asking your question or making your comment and being heard in the moment. We can show your comment on the screen. That is what BizDev Live is all about. I hope you'll stay with me. Alyssa Zonghetti is coming up right after the BizDev theme.
BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
Alyssa Zonghetti is an entrepreneur, a blogger, and connector of people, a corporate event planner turned online membership community founder. Alyssa has a passion for bringing single and independent women together to cultivate a community where they can socialize, network, learn, be empowered, supported, feel seen, and ultimately bond over their commonalities through her organization, the Contemporary Connection. Alyssa shares her journey of becoming an entrepreneur and overcoming trauma and grief resulting from a narcissistic relationship. Alyssa shares her experiences on numerous platforms and podcasts in hopes of helping other women navigate their life journey, feel connected to others, and be empowered to live their truth. Welcome to the show, Alyssa Zonghetti. Thank you so much for being a part of BizDev Live's 200th episode and being here and sharing your story. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you. It's such an honor. I think it's amazing what you're doing here. It's an honor to be a part of the 200th episode. And can I just say you have the coolest intro song ever? Amazing. I love it.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate you. So talk to us about all the things that you're doing right now. I know you're providing amazing services. You have an amazing mission. Tell everybody about what you're doing right now, and then we'll kind of get into the backstory.
Yeah, so late last year, I started a new online membership community called the Contemporary Connection. And it's a community where single women and those who resonate with a more independent lifestyle can come together, get to know each other better, find ways to socialize, of course, virtually right now. Hopefully later this year, we will be moving to more in-person events and eventually planning group travel as well. So I'm excited for the year that's ahead. It's been an amazing start, and there's just so much more to come once we can get back to a little bit of normal life here. And so for right now, we're just really embracing the virtual platform because it gives us a chance to connect with women anywhere. We're not held by geography, which is the amazing part of virtual. So we've been able to connect women all over the globe, which has just been incredible.
Yeah, I know. I've been talking a lot. I was on Joe Gilderson's show. They have a AV kind of focused entrepreneur show. And we were talking about the power of virtual, the ability to reach people, bring so many more people to the table. And the idea that hybrid going forward is going to be something that everybody is going to be looking for, because now how do we go back and take advantage of the face-to-face and the personal connection, the handshakes, the hugs that are so needed and fulfilling, and add the seat at the table that we've been able to give people that normally wouldn't be able to, whether you live in a city and it's just challenging to make things work logistically, children, whatever, right? Or you live in a more rural place where it's 3 hours to get to the local association meeting, local group meeting, that kind of thing. Or you live a country away and you want to take advantage of the amazing people that are doing things in other places that fit into your schedule. All of these things that allow for people to kind of come to the table and take part in things that they could have never taken advantage of before, which has been a benefit during the pandemic. How do we kind of keep that going and move that forward? I think a lot of people are going to be trying to answer that question in the coming months as we start getting everybody vaccinated and herd immunity and all that stuff. Tell us your story. I'm really excited to listen to it and hear it and share it with our audience. Why are you inspired? Why are you motivated to do the things that you do? Please tell us your story.
So it's funny you're talking about events. So I am a corporate event planner. That's what has been my career the last 15 to 20 years. So which seems crazy to even say it's been that long. But I've always loved bringing people together. And so whether that's been for larger events, corporate in my business, or, bringing people together in my local community or in my condo complex to get together to socialize. And so at 31 years old, I found myself a widow. I was married to someone that really had, some struggles in life, like we all do. And it was, quite a journey. And we, I found myself at that time really lost. 31 years old, at that point in your life, most of your friends are getting married, having children, and just on a different trajectory in their life. And here I just lost my husband to suicide, and I just was really struggling. I just felt really alone, really isolated, and just felt lost among my peers at that point. And so it was a really isolating time for me. And I always wanted to find a way to bring other single women together, but I just wasn't sure how to do it. I wasn't sure if people really wanted it. It seemed like maybe, but then I'm like, nah, maybe I'm the only one, or maybe there's just a handful of us out there. But, enter the pandemic, and it became very quickly apparent that there's thousands and thousands of women that felt the same way that I did, that were going it alone. They were, especially in the pandemic, felt a little more of that struggle when we were really isolated and had to be in our homes and unable to socialize. It really had an effect on singles. And so I did a one-time event. I, saw one of my networking groups that, a lot of women were struggling. And I said, hey, I'm going to plan this virtual event. I got a bunch of comedians together, and we just had like a fun night, a bunch of women virtually. Nobody really knew each other. I maybe knew a handful of people in the room, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. And so immediately after, everyone's like, okay, so are you going to do this next Saturday? And I'm like, well, this was supposed to be a one-time deal, but why not? Let's try it. So from there, we started doing weekly events. And then it just kept growing as the community kept growing. More women stepped up and said they wanted to, pay it forward or give back, and said, I have this particular skill, or this is what I do for a living, and I'd love to share with this community. So then we started having like coffee talks and lunch break events and happy hour events. And it just really blossomed from there. And then I just said to myself, this is it. This is what you always wanted to do. There is a need for it, and people are craving this connection. And so thus the Contemporary Connection was born. And it's been amazing ever since. It's really been special to watch these women connect, as we were talking earlier, all over the globe. We are not bound by geography right now. And with everyone craving the connection, it's amazing to be able to connect with people no matter where they are. And no matter what country you're in, or what city you're in, or what state you're in, if, when you're a single woman, you're experiencing a lot of the same things. And so that's the community I wanted to create. I wanted to create a space for these women to talk about all different topics, the struggles of dating, the things that come up when you're single, just, financial planning and retirement planning as a single, the not so fun stuff. We talk about, fashion styling and fitness and movement, and we have yoga classes, and we really just run the gamut for events. And so I really believe in what we call learning-based networking events. So we're together and we're learning about a particular topic, but we're also bonding and connecting. And so that's what I love about it, because it's really twofold. It's creating that space for connection and also bonding over those commonalities.
I love it. And so tell us a little bit more about your background, because I appreciate the story around loss. I think so many people are dealing with that everybody, it's a part of life that so many people are going to deal with on just regular lifeline, regular year. People are going to deal with loss. There's just the random, kind of challenges. Somebody in your network, somebody in your sphere is dealing with loss. Over the last year, people have been dealing with a lot more loss, right? In their community, in their families. So I love that you're sharing and being vulnerable and sharing that story and helping people kind of move through that. We've had Emily Oliver on this show that has also talked about that. She's a happiness coach, and that kind of work is so needed. Talk to us about, because you are in the events world, so talk to us about some of the event experience and some of the pieces that you've kind of brought to bear, because you've now sort of seen a place of need and you've brought your work experience to us. So what did little Alyssa, when she was growing up, what was she originally thinking to do, and how did that shape what you're doing now?
Oh my gosh. Well, little Alyssa, first I thought I was going to be a judge or a lawyer. And then I was going to become the next great fashion stylist, fashion designer. Clearly did not have a talent or a gift for either of those things, and found my way to the hospitality.
I've seen the photography on your websites and the fashion. I would not say that at all. You're selling yourself short. Go ahead. Keep going.
Thank you. That's having a lot of great people in your life to support you to pull that together. I cannot take credit for that, but it's still, I still love the fashion world. It's an amazing, thing to keep up with. But I ended up finding hospitality, honestly, I'm not going to say by a fluke, but a family member or extended family member was in the industry, and she talked about event planning. And they said, I think you would love this kind of industry. And so I started to get curious about it. My father was in the hospitality industry. And so I really started to explore as I was seeking out colleges, and thought, hey, working in a resort, maybe going to Vegas to work at a casino. I started to see the fun, or managing a sports arena. And that's how I fell into it, because again, I love to plan the party. I love to have the celebrations. I love to bring people together. And so that's honestly how I found my way into event planning. And it was an amazing career where I got to travel all over. I've been to some amazing places. I've stayed in some amazing resorts. And it was really just an incredible career. I'm still involved in it, but now it's been incredible to take that skill set and that love and passion for bringing people together and turn it into my passion project.
So I want to ask you one more question on kind of background, then we'll start kind of working into our conversation on takeaways. But you've worked for Biogen, you've worked for Merck and Company, St. Jude Medical, AMZ Events, Enabling Technologies, Capsule Technologies, Althera, Roden and Fields was the company that you're currently working with, right? Or one of the last experiences you have. You're doing events. You've now built the Contemporary Connection. So, what has been some of the fundamental experiences that you've had that have really shaped your mindset and either made you decide, I definitely want to do the entrepreneurship. I definitely want to work for the company. I'm just sort of interested because I know I've had this kind of history in terms of building my mentality around what I think about business and how I do business, how I treat customers, how I treat employees. And those fundamental experiences I think are really interesting, especially as we get into the conversation around entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So, at a young age, I had always had these dreams that I would love to have my own business, but it just seemed like this monumental thing that I just could not tackle. So I was very lucky through my college experience to land some internships and found my way into the biotech medical device world. And what a industry to be a part of. It was just an amazing learning experience. Really, top notch, like planning these large scale events that, no room for flaws or errors, and really just took things to a high level pretty quickly. And it was an amazing experience. I really learned at a young age about corporate America and, the good, the bad, and all that comes with it. And there were some beautiful pieces to it, but there was just always this desire inside of me that I wanted to be in business for myself. And that's just because I had, all these different ideas and things I wanted to do. And sometimes when you're in a corporate, that's not always the goal of that company. And so I really wanted to take this plunge, but was never in a position until about a few years ago where I was able to step out on my own and as an event planner. And it just kind of, snowballed from there. And I'm like, okay, actually, maybe I can do this. I have all this experience under my belt now. I've made a lot of great connections and relationships with people, which I think is a huge part of business. I was thinking of a story earlier, and I used to be the type of person when I would get on an airplane, as I said, I traveled a lot, headphones on, face and book, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. And, a few years into my career, I started to realize what an injustice that was. I am getting on these planes and in hotels and sitting in restaurants with all these amazing people around me that I never know who's really around me. So as I started to travel more and be out there more, I changed my approach to say, okay, be more open. Talk to that person in line at the coffee. Talk to the person you're sitting next to on the plane, because you just never know who you're going to meet and what they can bring to your life and what you can bring to their life. And once I really changed that attitude, it really opened up so many doors for me and really just led me on this path to creating, again, communities and really being passionate about networking.
I love that. And that brings up our story, because we met through all places, Clubhouse, right? And so that's a place where a lot of people are networking right now. And I know that's like one of the first takeaways that we wanted to give to people, because obviously you talked about it, right? You're kind of developing the mentality, you kind of knew, and then sort of through the process of networking, which I think is one of the big takeaways for me in my entrepreneurial story, is that I should have been looking for mentors a lot earlier and giving myself permission a lot earlier to ask for somebody to be my accountability partner, to ask for mentorship, to ask for advice, which, funny enough, if you reach out to people and ask for advice, it's a pretty easy ask. A lot of people enjoy giving advice, and will give advice for free. Let me buy you a coffee and get a whole strategy session, not so much. But if I got a really specific question and I can give specific advice to it, anybody can reach out to me, and I'm usually over the moon that anybody's excited enough to hear me talk.
It's true, though. It's true. And I think, again, in this last year especially, it's easier than ever to connect because, we are home more, we have more time, and there's so many different ways to connect. Like I said, I know we connected on Clubhouse, and I've been loving that platform. I mean, it's a really authentic and easy way because it is removing the screen from everything. And I think in a time when we're all a little screen fatigued, it's just a great platform. And I think because the screen is taken away, it really, people are getting much more authentic there, and they're getting very vulnerable there and just willing to connect and share. And it's just really been a really amazing platform. Like I said, I love that we connected there. I mean, you were one of the first people I connected with on there. I don't even remember exactly what the room was on, but I just came in and I'm like, wow, there's so many amazing people here. And I felt compelled to jump up on stage and talk.
Yeah, I'm going to say this because I think this is really helpful to people. And one of the reasons that I push people to LinkedIn versus, you can do this through like Facebook Messenger and that sort of thing. But for me, in terms of the user interface and the user experience for LinkedIn, while I'm doing these interviews even, and you could be on so putting this into sort of play for somebody that's on a networking call or on a phone call and you got your computer in front of you, one of the ways that I'm able to sort of stay focused and know what I'm talking about in interviews by being connected to somebody on LinkedIn, I have your resume basically in front of me, the things that you've chosen to highlight and showcase to the world. So that's in front of me. And then in the message, I usually, the first thing that I do, and then actually your message to me was putting it in context, right? So we had talked about Emily Oliver. I mentioned her a little bit earlier in the show. Did you ever connect with Emily Oliver, by the way?
No, we have to connect offline about that. No.
Yeah. I got to send her way. So, but I'm able to see that, right? I go back into the message. And so that gives me my, customer resource manager, whatever you want to call it, for managing my contacts, because I don't always go and be a good boy and go into my Google contacts and update the notes in there. And, I think that's a challenge for a lot of people that are using, whatever system, Salesforce, whatever, however you kind of track the people that you're working with. And so that's how I kind of go back in and manage things. And so I don't know exactly all the things, but here's a part of the note that you sent me. It was a great room, and thanks for sharing so many gems with those of us listening. We were in the room. You mentioned a woman, that gets into the Emily Oliver conversation, because her story involves a lot of loss. And so that telling your story and bringing that context in, I love that. And that's been sort of something that even over just the last year plus a few months, I joined a group called the Master Networks, and I'm now president after a year being with the organization of my local Mount Pleasant chapter. But one of the reasons that I really like the organization is that it focuses on the networking when we get one-on-one. So we're in a networking thing, we're in Clubhouse, we're someplace, we get a one-to-one meeting, and we're telling each other's story. And one of the powerful things I think that's really amazing about Clubhouse is that the platform lends itself to storytelling, right? It's an audio only platform. So just throwing slides up and throwing information at people isn't even an option. You need to really, in order to capture people's attention and make it worthwhile for people, tell a story. You need to, in audio form, paint a picture, which is what a story is, right? Paint a picture of what it is that you're doing. And some people are better at it than others. And so I think it's really great practice for people. You don't have to be on screen. You don't have to have the outfit on. You don't have to do the hair. You can just be there and tell your story and get really good at that verbal banter, which I think is one of those keys to networking. Is if you got a moment, and whether it's 4 people in the room, in a breakout session, or 40 people, and you got your, 20 second, 30 seconds to do your elevator pitch, getting really good at telling some sort of story in that time is amazing. Forgive me for going at length on that, but I think that's something that's incredibly valuable on the networking conversation.
I agree. And I think it's interesting because, again, in the social media world where it's a lot of written content and it's a lot of static images, I think, we're losing that art of conversation and losing that art of, verbally connecting with one another and sharing authentically, because everything's so curated now and everything's so strategic now. And so I think that's why, again, I love Clubhouse, because it forces you to be your authentic self. You can't hide behind the perfectly curated posts or, words that you crafted for an hour to make sure it, sounded perfect. It's who you are, and it forces you to really show up as you and really bring your authentic self forward.
So can you expand on, because I know you've talked a little bit about how networking has influenced you in your career, but for people to take away something really valuable from this conversation, what are your tips, tricks, ways that you're utilizing, whether it's Clubhouse or any other platform, meeting, virtual or otherwise? What is your kind of secret recipe for getting the most out of intentional networking?
So I think the biggest thing for me is to be open to it and to showing up in these places like Clubhouse, different virtual networking communities. I mean, there's networking happening everywhere nowadays, especially with all these virtual opportunities. And so just being open to those. I've started scheduling in time now to my calendar each week, whether it be to show up at networking events or just once I attend a networking event, to pick a handful of people that I feel like that I could connect with, or we may have some synergies in our business, and set up those virtual coffee dates or, connections afterwards so we can have that one-on-one conversation. So really carving out the time to be very strategic about that, because I also know I found myself, because I love doing it, I would be at all these networking things all day. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't helping me either. I am trying to run a business, so I have to be strategic about where I'm spending my time. So scheduling in those virtual networking events, and then doing the follow-up work. As they always say, the fortune's in the follow-up. And that's really where it comes forward, is you want to cultivate that relationship and get to know one another better, and also how you can help one another. I mean, I'm sure you do this as well, but when I'm on a one-on-one networking conversation, it's like, how can I help you? How can I support you? And it's always the same thing back. And that's what I love, because people always come into it that they want to help each other. It's not about what can you do for me? It's about what can I do for you?
I love that. I'm just going to throw that. The fortune is in the follow-up. I think that's a great quotable. Thank you for that. What are ways, because you talked about, you want to be intentional with it. You want to make sure that you're getting something out of it. So if I am going to spend a whole day networking and I'm going to make it worth my while, what are ways that I can make sure that I'm doing something that actually helps me and helps my business?
I think showing up in the right places, and this again takes some trial and error. So I get invited to a lot of networking events, and most of them I will give a try and attend once, but then I really reevaluate afterwards and say, okay, is this, are people in my demographic here? Are people that maybe have synergistic businesses that are showing up here? Or do we have, commonalities and things in common? I mean, I think there's beauty when there's differences, of course, but I'm not going to go show up to a networking event with a bunch of accountants. That's not my world. That's not my realm. That's not where it's going to be beneficial to them or to me. So really just taking the time, like I said, it might take a little trial and error, but try them out, and then really be honest with yourself. Is this the place where I want to continue to show up? Are these the people that are going to serve me best and people that I can serve best? And just being really honest with yourself after that.
I love that. And is there something that you do to really kind of track people? Like, I've met so-and-so in this meeting. Do you take notes? Is there some way that you sort of take advantage of the people that are in the room, make those connections? Do you have a preferred way to kind of reach out to people, a way of bringing them to maybe a one-on-one meeting or pulling them into any of the things that you do?
So for me, I'm definitely old school pen and notebook kind of note taker. And so while I'm going through those networking events, I will.
Me too.
Yeah. So I, will definitely jot down the notes and say, okay, I talked with Cameron and here's what he's doing. And here's some key highlights and things that I want to follow up on, or something that he said that I resonated with. And then similar, like, as you mentioned, following up. If I'm having a conversation where I have the opportunity to ask, I do like to ask the person, where is it best for me to follow up with you? I don't want to reach out to you on Instagram if you're more of a LinkedIn person, or vice versa. And so I always try to ask that question if I'm able. If not, after the call, I will try to take a quick look and see where it seems like they show up most within their social platforms. And then that's where I'll choose to follow up and just reference our conversation. Say, here's where I think we could connect, or what might be worthwhile for us to connect, and then ask if they're willing to do, a quick 20-minute chat.
And it's funny, I'm going to point out a difference in something that I do, and I don't know if it's helpful or create confusion, but I know one of the things that I'm trying to get good at, there's somebody in my network, Ramon Ray, who's amazing, talks on personal branding. Definitely recommend, if you haven't heard of Ramon Ray, definitely get familiar with smarthustle.com and everything. But something he's really great at, and he's big on like the Twitter platform. And then I see him using the same strategies, same things on Facebook, but he's really good at name dropping and hitting it. Like, so if he's on Twitter, he's mentioning people in his posts. If he's on Facebook, he's mentioning people in posts. I've done that really well in LinkedIn. So the difference for me is, most of the time, I'm just driving everybody over to LinkedIn. And then, like, if they're not on LinkedIn, I'm just kind of like, well, I'm just going to take that, not as a loss, because, like, I'm on Clubhouse and you have your Twitter and your Instagram connected to Clubhouse. And my Instagram has never had more fun and flavor and stuff going on because of Clubhouse, because it's just not really my jam. for I know a lot of your audience and even some of the folks that may be watching me, Instagram is amazing. I know it's got all these different features to it. I'm very slowly learning them. But for me, it's like it's all LinkedIn. So I just try to drive everything over to LinkedIn because that's where I focus. But there's a lot of value to what you're talking about. And I certainly see Ramon Ray doing that, where you capture it, they're on that platform, you're utilizing it, you're creating that community over there, you're creating this community over here, and taking advantage of those multiple channels, which I really appreciate.
It's tricky. It's hard to show up everywhere. And that's something that I've had to really evaluate as a business owner is I'd love to show up everywhere, but I can't. I have to pick, 2 or 3 platforms where I really feel that my community is and where I feel it can grow and focus in there. Otherwise, it just gets too hard. I've learned you can't be everything to everybody, which is hard. You want to just be available to everybody, and I want to serve everybody and help everybody, but I can't do that. That's not realistic. And I'm not going to be for everybody.
And what platform is your main, or what 2 platforms are your main, if you have a couple of them?
So I'd say Facebook and Instagram. My community, we have a private Facebook page, so I do spend a lot of time there, and that's where a lot of our community shows up. But I have really been getting more into Instagram, especially, as you said, because of Clubhouse. It kind of drives everyone to there. I'm not a Twitter user, and so I just wasn't even opening that can of worms. But it's been really fun to, as you said, to kind of grow Instagram and play with it a little more and just have fun with it, not get so serious about it and just, experiment and explore. And
for anybody, if you're on YouTube, if you go into the description below, you'll see Alyssa's IG. It's at Alyssa Z, right? As in your last name.
My Clubhouse. Instagram is the Alyssa Z.
The Alyssa Z. All right. So, but it's down below. And then if you're on Facebook off to the side over there, you can look it in the description and you'll see places that you can connect with her online. So while we're talking about it, I wanted to make sure people could jump over there. All right. So I love that this conversation around networking, and when you're in these networking rooms, you want to share your story, right? So talk to us about the power of sharing your story. What has that done for you? How does it help you? How does it help other folks? How does it help? I want you to kind of take the gamut, both on how you use it and how you suggest other people use it.
Yeah, so this is something over the years that I've had to get really comfortable with, because I was really uncomfortable. It's not that I don't want to share my story. I was very good about sharing it one-on-one, or, in a smaller place. And I always loved when people would reach out to me and say, I know so-and-so, and they're going through a similar situation. Will you talk to them? Will you share with them about your journey and what's helped you? And I've always loved that, because so many people helped me in my journey, and I just want to be able to pay that forward to others. But it really, got me to thinking I'm playing a little small here, because it's great to, connect with 1 or 2 people here or there. But, what if I could reach hundreds? What if I could reach thousands? And so with that, I really said, okay, I have to own this. I have to, I feel almost a responsibility to people, because, what if somebody didn't share their story with me? Or what if somebody didn't help my journey along? I almost feel like it's a little unfair of me to keep my story to myself and not help others and learn.
I love that. And I think that's something that for a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't want to bother. You got to flip it on your head. The opportunity that you're providing, right? I love that. I love that so much. Sorry to interrupt you, but I know that that's something that I think is a major mindset shift for people if they get into the fact that by sharing what they do, by sharing their story, you are including people. You're being inclusive. You're not excluding people from the opportunity that you can provide. And that's a big deal. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. And for me, I had a lot of fears around sharing my story, not just, of course, everyone gets worried about judgment and what others are going to think. And, like I said, I went through a tough relationship with my husband, but it was also a beautiful relationship, and he was a beautiful person. And, we all have our struggles in life, and I didn't want everybody to focus on the negative of him. And so I just had all these different fears. And the more I just, had space and time, I just said, again, I really believe deep down that he would have wanted me to share this story. and share about some of his struggles, because he was the type of person that always wanted to help others too. And so I just really felt this calling in the last couple of years that now is the time, like I need to do this. And I just really believe there is power in sharing your story and to help others. And, it does, bottom line, it also does help grow your brand. People, it's that whole know, like, and trust factor. People want to know you. People aren't buying a product or a service anymore. They are buying you as the person. And I really do believe that. And so that's something I also really try to really facilitate within my business I want people to get to know me, the real me, the authentic me. I'll share very openly, because that will hopefully form the trust for them to want to come into a space, especially where I'm creating a community organization. They want to know who they're signing up to be and, friends with, essentially, and who they're connecting with. And they want to know myself and the other people in the community. And so that's why I also feel it's really important to share my story as well.
I know I fall into this. I don't know if you feel this as well, but sometimes, because you are telling your story, and obviously if you're telling it, you've heard it before. And so you sort of get into this thing of assuming that maybe in the same group or somehow, some way, if you're posting online, somebody has heard your story already. And so you feel maybe a little self-conscious about telling that story. And often I'll try to remind myself by pointing out superstars that are continually resharing their story, and how often I listen to that same person share their same story or a little tweaked version of that story on different interviews, different platforms and channels. Who are people that you look up to that you've heard their story over and over again and never get tired of listening to it?
Oh gosh. There's so many. But I think overall, it's just, like you said, it's just hearing those stories over and over. Even some people said they're not like celebrities in my mind, but some of the people that I've connected with, again, through Clubhouse, that I've started sharing, and co-moderating rooms with. And every time we're in rooms and they're sharing their story over and over, and I feel like I've heard it every time, like you said, something new comes out, or there's just a new piece of information. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that about them. And it just makes me feel closer to them each time. It makes me feel like I know them just a little bit better and a little bit more intimately, which is just really cool. Like, Sid, no matter how many times you hear it, there's probably always another piece that you haven't heard.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a few women that I've heard their story multiple. Emily Oliver, who I definitely got to connect you with, is one. Heather Monahan, Oprah. When you think about Oprah, you think radio show host, but she was actually fired from broadcast television before she, people didn't want to give her a shot, and so. The stories that on the men's side, Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, and you got these stories with like Tony Robbins, who was sleeping in his car and now is like this, mega celebrity, mega rich. These stories, Gary Vaynerchuk with his story of being very humble, working for his parents, just doing really amazing things for his parents, and then not really started meeting his own personal success for himself personally until he was in his 30s. I love those stories, right? I love Barbara Corcoran, who, is on Shark Tank, and now people may know her from Shark Tank, but before that, she was a real estate mogul in the city. I saw her on stage and I didn't even know who she was. I didn't really watch Shark Tank like that. I kind of knew what Shark Tank was, but I didn't really watch it. And I was at a event and I was there for somebody else. And that person was sharing their expertise in the industry, but they didn't really tell their story. She got on stage, she told her story, and she blew me away. I wasn't there for her. I left feeling like I didn't come for anybody else. This is what I was here for. This is why, the spirits put me in this house today, because this was something meaningful. And then, I listened to her on stage, and then I went and read the book. So I think that's something amazing as you get really great about telling your story, whether it's writing the book to help tell your story or telling your story and then going and writing the book. People love stories. And as we hear them, I don't think, you put me in front of Barbara Corcoran telling her story in another version, another way, I'm going to be happy to sit there and listen to it because of the power of her story and the power of the stories that she tells. So I love that. And I love hearing about the Clubhouse thing, because I think there's a lot of people, we assume, oh, you got to be a celebrity. I love, when people get up here and they're sharing their stuff. Paula, actually, who's in my community. Thanks for commenting, Paula. Barbara used to be a waitress. She was a customer of mine. So, and Barbara tells that story of like how she was started out in her small town. She was in a big family. And one of the things, like, I think her book originally was named like something along the lines of how ponytails, and I don't know if it was a low cut shirt or whatever, helped like with her tips and got her first husband and got her into the real estate thing. Like, it's a whole thing, but marketing, with the style, the fashion, the whole thing, there's a whole thing around it. Paula says she's incredibly nice. Yeah, I really like Barbara. So it's a great example of a great storyteller. I don't know if you wanted to add anything on the storytelling piece, Alyssa.
Well, just as you were talking about people, it's so Bethany Frankel is somebody that I really resonate with her story. I turned 40 last year, and she's just someone that's always in my mind that I say, okay, like, she had her struggles and she kept hustling, she had her failures and she still kept going forward. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's what just because I turned 40 and, we have all these like timelines in our heads and our culture that you're supposed to have all these things done by these certain times in your life. And I said, no, I don't need to subscribe to that. Someone like her and so many others have succeeded far beyond, their 20s and 30s. And, just because it hasn't, happened yet, or I haven't found, I also don't think there's one thing either, right? That's what I love about the world today is we all have our hands in so many different things. And we are in a place where we can embrace all different projects. I know you and I both come from the hospitality world, and, you're doing these amazing things at BizDev Live and growing other, businesses for yourself as well. And I just love that that's where the world is going now. You don't have to just be kind of that one trick pony, that the world embraces doing multiple things. And I think Bethany is somebody that shows that, she's got her hands in everything now. And so I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I think hospitality is a great breeding ground for entrepreneurship, because we learn the importance of treating customers well and how to treat, our coworkers well. And so I think folks that come from a hospitality background are destined to be great leaders and great bosses, because we know we usually have experience with a bad manager or a bad boss. We know we don't want to repeat that for anybody. We don't want to put somebody through that. And of course, we have the whole customer service thing, which I don't care if you're T-Mobile or you're Amazon or whatever, the customer service experience is such a big deal. And yes, like if you're Amazon, you can get away with not really having to be on phone with people, but then it's like, how do you over deliver in the actual delivery of the service? And, so many pieces of the user experience. How do you make it easy for people, go into a restaurant and wait around for service, and, immediately, that's not customer service, right? Your expectation is very high when you come and you're looking for an easy experience. You're usually hungry and thirsty, and you're not in the mood to play around, right?
Right. And you know what? Hospitality, that's one of the hardest working industries. People, that it's not for the faint at heart. And so if you are in the hospitality world, you know how to work hard and you know how to grind it out.
Absolutely. So talk to us about this kind of final takeaway that we wanted to leave people with, trusting your gut and taking the leap. You knew at some point that you wanted to do entrepreneurship, but there's this, you're at the precipice. All right. Do I take the leap? Do I jump into this? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's hard because we talk ourselves out of so much, right? Mm-hmm. Like we come up with all these fears, and, I know I battle it daily still. They always talk about that imposter syndrome, and, do I really have something to offer? And so many other people are doing it. Why am I going to do it? And just all these fears that played into my mind. And then of course, the true logistics of it, right? The financial security, and do I want to take this risk, and doesn't seem smart. And I just would always talk myself out of it. But like I said, in this last year or so, it really, the pandemic and so much, like things just really started to fall into place. And I just said to myself, I feel like it was just all these signs were coming at me, like, this is your time. Stop waiting and just do it. I had more fear over not doing it than doing it. And so I said, this is the time. I've just got to take the leap and go for it. I've been through some crazy things in life and I've lived to tell the tale. It's like, what's the worst that could happen, right? Like, I felt like I could always find my way out of it. And so I said, it's just time. It's time to take the plunge. It's time to do this and just see where I can take it, because I was nervous about the regret I might have if I never did it.
I love that. And what's been the benefit for you as you sort of, because I think there's the fear, right? You're sort of trying to make that decision. You're trying to use your brain, use your heart, whatever, right? Try to put it all in perspective. What's been the benefit for you since you've sort of kind of leapt into doing some of these things and kind of put yourself out there?
Honestly, I felt just really at peace. It's been an exciting time. It's, a nerve-wracking time, of course, but it just feels right. And, sometimes you always hear people talk about being aligned or feeling aligned in your purpose. And I never really knew what that meant. It just kind of felt like some buzzwords to me. And now I get it. Now I understand what people really meant by that term. And that's where I feel that I'm at now. It just feels good. It just feels right. It feels like so much is possible. And, I've created this community and I have so many things I want to do beyond that now. And now they just all seem possible because I was just able to step into this and say, I'm doing this, I'm changing my mindset and I'm going to make it happen. And let's go for it. And once you shift your mindset that you're going to do it and not this, oh, well, I hope it works out, I hope it's going to happen. You have to say, no, it's going to happen. I am going to do this. I am going to grow this huge community. I am going to become an author. I am going to do all of these things. That's the mindset you need to come from. And I think once you can step into that truly and deeply, then it just makes it so much easier.
I love that so much. I'm going to show everybody your website here. And if you would just, again, talk to us about ways that people can sort of, because you have such a great message. I love the spirit of what you were just talking about in terms of feeling and being your true self. I've certainly felt like I've started really getting there. I'm passionate about hospitality. I love hospitality. I love working with people. What really drives me, though, is providing opportunity and education. What really drives me is taking somebody from wherever they are and opening those doors, whether it's sharing a good book, a resource, a connection, insight on how to avoid some of the crazy potholes that I've fallen into in my entrepreneurial journey, my educational, my life journey. So I love that a lot. Let me share here the website for everybody. Talk to us a little bit about, some of the programs and stuff where people can sort of get into your circle and understand what you're doing better.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have a free Facebook page. So if you come to our website, The Contemporary Connection, there's a link right in the upper right-hand corner where you can connect to our Facebook page, and it's a free page. It's open to anyone that wants to join. So if you want to check us out and just understand our community a little bit better, that's a great place. Please check out our website. I really spent a lot of time, my web design team can tell you, I really wanted to make it very clear what you get by becoming a part of our community and what it feels like to be a part of the community. And I wanted to make sure it was very thoughtful and purposeful website. So there's a lot of great information there, a lot of great information on what our community is like, what the women are like, what you get for being a member of our community, and where we're going as well, which I think is just as important.
I love that. And for folks that are trying to do things that are similar to what you're doing, what's kind of the model that you're using for building your business? Because I know I meet with somebody, I'm in a club at 5 a.m. in the morning, getting up, talking about my win and the 3 things that I need to do with our group there, run by this wonderful business coach, Lynn Rowe. But for folks that are trying to build communities and trying to actually, profit from that and build something and actually make it worthwhile for them, Tom, what sort of some of the strategies that you put into place that have been working for you?
I think the first thing is to show up, and show up consistently, because if you want to build a community, people are looking to you to lead and looking to connect with you. And so it's just really important to show up and be available and be accessible to your community, because that's why they're showing up. And, my whole point of my community is I want people to feel seen and to feel like they are creating a connection with someone. So it starts with me. So if you're trying to build a community, it's going to start with you, and that's what people are going to connect to most. And so you have to definitely show up and be there consistently. I think the other piece of it is really understanding what you want to offer and what your community wants. The way my community started, it's actually morphed. In less than a year's time, it morphed quite a bit. And that was because I really tried to listen to the community members and understand what they were looking for. It's great if you have these ideas, and you should be solid in those ideas, but also be open to feedback from your community. Again, we can't please everyone, and that's something throughout my event planning career and this journey that I've had to really embrace and understand, that I can't give everything to everybody, but you also need to be open enough to hear your community, hear their wants and needs, and try to shape the community around that a little bit.
I know in building a community, there's always people that are helpful and great supporters. Is there anybody that you want to particularly shout out today that's helped you?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I mean, my family and friends, they know who they are. They know who's been supporting me through this journey. I have to shout out Jen Marilla. She's been a business coach that I've been working with. She's been amazing. She's really pushed me even before we were working together. We had connected through social media, and she really, pushed me along in my journey. I have to thank the members of my community, the women in that community that, said, yes, go for it. Like, make this a formal membership community, do this, grow this. Like, we are behind you. That was the biggest support of all, honestly. It's just knowing that they were behind me and they wanted to do this. But yeah, there's been so many people, so many mentors. Oh gosh, there's just so many to even name, but you people know who you are. I do try to really let people know who has been an impact in my life, an impact in my journey. I really am somebody who honestly believes in that, that we need to let people know when they've made an impact.
Let me ask you this question, because this is something that I sort of struggle on, and something that I think for folks that are trying to build a community, it's so important. Sometimes we take we take for granted the people that are our biggest supporters. And what I mean by that is sometimes you're like so much in the hunt for growth, for the new shiny object, that we forget what we have. And so I mean that in the most literal sense, like in invitations for an event, you forget like who are the biggest commenter, the person that always shows up, and you're inviting these other people, and then you're sitting there going crazy like, oh my goodness, why isn't somebody signing up for my program? And you've forgotten like the people that always show up. I don't know if that's something that's been a challenge for you, and getting that down. But in terms of, for me, building a community, it's remembering like these are the folks that show up every week. They're who I'm going to pay more attention to than anything else. And then, and only then, will I go and, sort of pursue, the folks that are further out, and, maybe I don't, get as many touch points on. Is that a thing, or?
No, I totally relate to that. And that's something that I believe in that a lot, and never want to forget where I came from. And that goes into all the things we've been talking about today. Like, I don't want to forget where I came from. I don't want to forget my journey. That's one of my big fears around success is forgetting where I came from, and forgetting those people that supported me from the beginning and were there when nobody else was there, and they were the only person in the room, standing at my events. And so that's something I never want to forget. I always want to remain as grounded as I can in that. And those are the people that are always going to be there.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think it's one of those learning points for me that's like, hey, if you're going to build something, if you're going to bring people together, you got to have that focus. Because I know I have at certain times sort of veered off and oh my goodness, and then I'm wondering, like, why am I not getting people signing up for it? It's like, oh, you didn't, hey, wackadoodle, you didn't Add the people, your biggest supporters, your biggest fans, the people that always show up for you weren't focused in the right place. So I think that's something that's great. Hopefully for folks that are building community, you're getting something out of that. Please support Alyssa. Please check out her website, at contemporaryconnection.com. Check her out on Instagram and Facebook, her preferred platforms. For folks, who are you looking to connect with? Who is somebody that you would like to reach out to you as a potential client, somebody, and then who are mentors, who are people that you would love to be connected with? So both ways, people that you would love to immediately be in your community, and who are people maybe that you're trying to gravitate towards to get an opportunity to get a one-on-one with.
Yeah. So for our community, as I said, it's really geared towards single women, but as we said, kind of listening to your community, that's where we started, was for single women. But then I had a lot of women reaching out to me and said, I'm not single, I'm dating, or I may be in a partnership with someone, but I still want to maintain my independence. I still love to travel alone and do things alone. And I want to handle on my own finances. I don't want to lean on my partner for everything. And so that's what led us to broaden the reach of our community. And so I invite anyone that's single or resonates with living a more independent lifestyle. We are the community for you. Come check us out. As I said, right now we're hosting virtual events. We have about 5 to 7 a month, ranging in all kinds of topics. And then hopefully later this year, we're going to start doing in-person events and start doing group travel. And like I said, there's just a lot more to come. So we would love to have you. As Cameron said, check out our website and the links on YouTube, and come find me. You can link, if you get to my Instagram, you can link everywhere. So if that's the easiest place to go there. But come check us out. Come join our free Facebook page. We would love to have you. And then in terms of who I would love to just connect with, I love to connect with people like you, Cameron, other business owners, other entrepreneurs, other people that are growing in their industries and living out passion projects. So anyone else that's on that journey, I'd love to connect. You mentioned earlier about having accountability partners. It's so great to have people like that to connect with and say, oh my gosh, the back end of my website is crashing and I'm pulling my hair out, or, I'm having this struggle today. It's just so nice to be able to connect with people to go through some of those challenges, the good and the bad, again, of entrepreneurship. It can be, again, very isolating to be an entrepreneur, especially now where we're home and working in our homes by ourselves. It can be tough. So I think it's really great to be able to connect and support one another. So if anyone out there is building a business or wants to build a business, I'm always available to chat. I know you love working with youth as well, Cameron, and I do too. I really love supporting, especially in underserved communities. So, if there's any up and coming entrepreneurs, any youth out there that's looking to connect with someone, please reach out to me as well.
That's awesome. So I'm definitely going to reach out to you that. And I mentioned the 5 a.m. club. So I don't know if you're an early riser or want to be an early riser. But that's available, so we can definitely talk about that. Thank you so much for doing this, celebrating BizDev Live's 200th episode with me.
Congratulations!
Thank you. You did an incredible job. I think we gave some great information and helped some people today, and that's what this is all about: providing opportunity, providing education. So thank you for helping me continue that mission. I encourage people to please connect with Alyssa Zonghetti. She's amazing. And we didn't talk about this, but where are you based?
I'm in Boston, Massachusetts.
And actually, not many people know this because it's not something that I talk about a lot, but I was actually born in Boston, Massachusetts. So I grew up I'm a New York City guy. That's where I spent most of my life, and even a little bit of the West Coast. But I was born. This star was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
I love it. It's a good place to call home. Where usually be from.
I didn't actually get to see it until like I don't know. It was like, I know I was married, so like,
oh wow,
20s or 30s is when I got up to Boston for the first time. And I think the first time I went up, they were still working on the Big Dig. And then the second time I went up, they had just completed the Big Dig and we went to the aquarium. It was amazing. And I loved it. Going to the, what's the big commercial piece, the market?
Oh, Faneuil Hall and Quincy Market.
Yeah, I mean, just great. And getting some of that New England clam chowder. Oh man, I could use some of that right now. You're gonna have to send some down to me.
Yes. Austin is definitely home, born and raised. I moved around a little bit, but found my way back here. Though I have to say, New York City is one of my favorite places in the world. So I spend a lot of time, if I can, there as well. But
we'll be happy to host you and show you around and get together whenever you please. We like doing the touristy thing, so any excuse.
Sure. But just come in the summer.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much for this. Tell everybody where they can find you one more time, and then I'll play us off with the BizDev theme that you like so much. We'll get into it.
Yes, I love it. It's awesome. So thank you. Yes, you can check me out either on Instagram at the Alyssa Z, or you can go to alyssaz.com to learn more about me, or our organization, thecontemporaryconnection.com. And I just want to shout you out, Cameron. You're doing amazing things here. Congratulations on 200 episodes. And I can't wait to be celebrating 300, 400, 500 and beyond with you.
Definitely on the way there. Thank you so much.
BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T.